This video is gonna be about DC-DC converters. I have only few little experiences with DC-DC converters. Here I have one DC-DC converter which is able to supply 3 amperes. I am gonna test its properties. I am curious how stable is gonna be the output when I am regulating the input voltage. I am powering the DC-DC converter from this power supply, which is 12 volts. Here I measure the current, input current. Here I measure the output current, and here I measure output voltage. The first thing, I'm going to adjust the DC-DC converter to 5 volts, and I am curious how stable it is gonna be when I change the load. This is load which makes current 60 milliamperes, and I change the load for this 15 ohms resistor. It makes current 270 milliamps. So I should probably write it down. So input 12 volts, input voltage, input current, and output voltage, output current. So let's write it down. It is 12 volts, it is 120 milliamperes, output voltage is 5.12, and output current is 270 milliamperes. Now let's change for the different resistor. So I'm going to change the load for this resistor. It's gonna be 3.3 ohms. It's gonna be maybe too big load. Alright, let's write the measurements down. Of course, 12 volt input, it's 400 milliamperes, 5.14 volts, 820 milliamperes. Let's change. Perhaps we could change the input voltage. Now I'm not sure what outputs I have here, so I'm gonna measure it, because this is power supply made from PC power source. Oh, here is nice voltage. Between here and here I have 18 volts. Perfect, 18.3. So let's test it with 18.3 volts on input. Alright. (18.3 volts). We have input current 270 milliamperes. the output current we have 820 milliamperes, and voltage is still stable, relatively stable. We can perhaps change for another resistor. I would like to see some big current, so let's have a look for some small resistor. Here is one what I think is good, but it's too small for me, so we have to be quick because I think it's gonna get hot. So let's check for current, output current. Nice, 1.3 amps. So a 18.3 volts input, 430 milliamperes on input. We have 5.15 volts on output, which I think is good, and output current 1.30 amps. So let's change the voltage for 12 volts. At 12 volts we have input current 680 milliamperes. Output voltage is stable, 5.15, and output current is also stable. So this means that all what is changing when I am changing the input voltage is input current. Everything stays set up relatively still, as we can see. This result I quite like, so I would like to see some bigger current. Alright, I think this DC-DC converter isn't able to supply more amperage, and we should probably test it with one drastic solution, and it is with shorting it out. So let's quickly write down the measurements. 18 volts on the input. We have 690 milliamperes, 5.19 volts, and 1.96 amps. Let's change for supply 12 volts and have a look again. I'm gonna short the output out. 12 volts, 1.22 amps. Output 5.15, 19 volts, 5.19 volts and 1.96 amps. So output is very stable. When conditions are changing on the input, output always stays the same.